My engagement party was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. The room glowed with soft music, candlelight, and the scent of roses mingling with champagne. Laughter filled the air as guests clinked glasses and offered congratulations to me and Daniel, the man I loved, the man I'd spent 6 years building a future with. But behind the polished smiles and cheerful toasts, my family was hiding something unforgivable. It began 2 weeks earlier, when my mother summoned me to the kitchen with that syrupy, practiced voice she only used when she wanted something big. "You know your brother's wedding is coming up," she said, fiddling with her necklace as though it were armor, "and you haven't exactly touched that $100,000 grandpa left you for your own wedding." I stiffened. "I'm saving it for my wedding." "Well, Justin's comes first," she said, her smile sharp, "his set on Cancun, and it would mean the world if you lent him the money." I blinked. "You want me to hand over my wedding fund?" "Not hand over," my father added from the doorway, "just lend it. You and Daniel don't need anything fancy. A backyard wedding will suit you fine." The words hit me like ice. "You want me to sacrifice my future for his party?" Mom's expression hardened. "This isn't about you, Ava. Justin is our only son, and he's marrying into the Thompsons. They have real connections." "And what about Daniel?" "About me?" I asked, my voice breaking. "You'll understand when you're older," Dad said flatly, and walked away as if the matter were settled. But I didn't give in. For 2 weeks, I endured their guilt trips, manipulations, even Mom's dramatic tears as she painted me the villain to our relatives. I held my ground. Daniel's words echoed in my ear. "You don't owe them your future, Ava." For once, I chose myself. I never thought they'd retaliate the way they did. On the night of my engagement party, everything seemed perfect until my brother stumbled in late, reeking of alcohol, and tossed his blazer onto a guest's chair like he owned the place. My father's approving nod to him sent a chill through me. Then his gaze found me across the room. I was standing by the cake with Daniel's arm around my waist when Dad's face darkened. He crossed the room with slow, deliberate steps, his fury barely contained. "We need to talk," he muttered through clenched teeth. "In the middle of my engagement party?" I asked. "You're humiliating this family," he hissed, seizing my arm. Daniel stepped between us. "Sir, with all due respect." But Dad shoved him aside. "Stay out of this." The music stopped. Guests turned as his voice thundered through the room. "You selfish girl. You owe your brother everything. And this party, you don't even deserve it." My wrist throbbed in his grip as I tried to pull away. His eyes were wild, his voice shaking with rage. "Give him the damn money, or I swear." And then it happened. He slapped me, open-handed, in front of 50 people. The crack echoed through the room. My earring flew, spinning across the floor. My head snapped sideways with the force, and for a moment, the world froze. My mother gasped, not in horror, but in embarrassment, as though I'd embarrassed her. Justin chuckled nervously and hid behind his glass of whiskey. Daniel was at my side in an instant, cupping my face, his hands trembling with rage. "You just hit your daughter," he said, his voice breaking, "at her own engagement. She brought it on herself." My father barked, "Ungrateful girl, we raised her, and this is how she repays us." I held my burning cheek, staring at the man who had just shattered whatever fragile thread still tied me to that family. But I didn't cry, not then. I simply turned to Daniel, my voice low and steady. "Let's go." And we walked out. The silence that followed was deafening. I could feel their stares, the whispers swelling like smoke behind us. But I didn't care, because something inside me had snapped, something strong, sharp, and unbreakable. They wanted to take my future, fine, I would take theirs. The next morning, my cheek still throbbed, but worse than the sting was the silence. No calls, no apologies, not from Mom, not from Dad, not even from Justin, as if nothing had happened. Daniel tried to keep it normal, making eggs and coffee, but I could see the tightness in his jaw. "You can't let this go," he said quietly. "This isn't just a slap. They humiliated you. They'll keep doing it unless you stop them. I nodded, because he was right, and because I already had a plan. They'd forgotten something my grandfather left me years ago, a piece of paper they never even knew existed. Yes, he'd left me $100,000 for my wedding, but that wasn't all. Before he died, Grandpa had quietly transferred the deed to their house, his original property, into my name. I still remembered his words, "One day they'll forget your worth. When they do, this will remind you that you are not powerless." Back then, I didn't understand. Now, I did. I unlocked a drawer and pulled out the file. The paper was yellowed at the edges, but the ink was clear. Property deed, title holder, Ava Jennings, stamped, sealed, legal. The house they lived in, the house they thought was theirs, was mine. My lawyer, Lenora, confirmed it. "You have full authority," she said. "You can evict, you can sell, you decide." I didn't say yes. Not yet. I wanted them to see the ground shifting beneath their feet. So I sent a notice. Elegant, gold-embossed stationery. Not a threat, just a reminder, a change in ownership review. 2 days later, Mom called, her voice sharp. "Ava, what is this envelope?" "Oh," I said lightly, "it's about the house." She scoffed. "We've lived here for 20 years. You can't just." "I can, actually," I cut in, calm and deliberate, "because I own it. Grandpa left it to me, not to you, not to Dad." And for the first time in my life, I heard silence on her end of the line. Silence. You don't mean to evict us," my mother whispered, her arrogance collapsing into fear. I smiled bitterly. "I mean to give you the same courtesy you gave me when Dad slapped me in front of 50 guests and you stood there like it was deserved." Her eyes darted, desperate. "But where will we go? Your father's health isn't what it used to be. We've built our life in this house." "And I was building mine," I said, my voice like glass, "until you tried to gut it for a beach wedding, and then stood by while your husband hit your daughter." That's when she snapped, screaming, cursing, spitting venom, calling me ungrateful, evil, a mistake. I let her rage until her voice broke. Then, calmly, I said, "You have 30 days. Click." But that was only the beginning. Daniel and I still attended Justin's wedding, invited out of obligation, not love. I walked in wearing a tailored white pantsuit, my cheek fully healed, my eyes colder than ice. Justin smirked at me during the reception. "Glad you finally showed your face." I leaned in close. "Enjoy your honeymoon," I whispered, "because when you get back, Mom and Dad won't have a home to welcome you to." He laughed until he saw I wasn't joking. 2 weeks later, the papers went through. The house wasn't just sold, it was sold to a developer who planned to bulldoze it to the ground. A red notice was nailed to the door. "Property sold. Vacate within 14 days. My phone lit up with their calls. I let it ring. When they finally appeared on my lawn, faces streaked with tears, I didn't invite them inside. "You think this is fair?" my father shouted. "No," I said evenly, but neither was slapping me at my engagement, neither was choosing a son over a daughter for 28 years. "We gave you everything," he growled. "You took everything," I corrected. "Now I'm just returning the favor." For the first time in my life, they begged, but I was done listening. I watched in silence as they packed their life into Justin's SUV and drove away. It wasn't revenge, it was justice. And it was only the beginning. 3 months later, life was quiet, too quiet. Outwardly, I looked fine. Inwardly, the scars still burned. Selling the house hadn't erased the nights I lay awake, wondering if I had gone too far. Then the letter arrived. My mother's handwriting, shaky but unmistakable. Paper, not email, shame too heavy for a screen. I left it unopened for 2 days before finally breaking the seal. "We raised you. We loved you. You're destroying this family out of spite. You sold our home, and your father's health is failing. You've made your point. Are you proud of yourself?" No apology, no acknowledgement, just more guilt. That night, I fed the letter to the fire pit. Daniel stood beside me, handing me the lighter without a word. His silence was the reassurance I needed. I hadn't been wrong to walk away. The world kept turning. 2 weeks later, an unexpected call lit up my phone. Gregory Harper, the CEO of a top consulting firm where I'd once interned. "Ava," he said warmly, "I've been following your nonprofit work. Your latest housing equity project is brilliant. We're opening a new branch in Seattle, and I want you to lead it." I nearly dropped the phone. "You're offering me an executive role?" "Yes," he said. "Full control, full salary, full freedom." This time, I didn't hesitate. "I'll take it." That night, Daniel and I packed for Seattle. I looked around our apartment one last time, not with nostalgia, but with pride. Every corner represented a life I had built on my own, piece by piece, without them. Months into my new role, I was invited to speak at a company gala in Los Angeles. I had no idea the speech would go viral. On stage, I didn't tell every ugly detail. I told enough. I spoke about generational betrayal, about the myth of unconditional love, about how sometimes the people who raise you are also the ones who try to erase you. When I finished, silence lingered, then the room erupted in applause. As I stepped off stage, a young woman stopped me by the elevator. Tears streaked her face. "Your story saved me," she whispered. "My dad made me give up my savings for my brother's law school. I thought I was the problem, but now, I know I'm not." I hugged her. I didn't need validation, but in that moment, I understood. My pain had a purpose. 2 weeks later, I returned to my hometown for a real estate visit. Fate intervened. Outside a strip mall, I ran into Justin. He looked smaller, worn down, his eyes hollow. He blinked when I stepped out of the black SUV. "So the rumors were true," he muttered. "Which ones?" I asked. "That you sold the house just to prove a point." I tilted my head. "No, I sold it because you all spent years proving your point first." He glanced away. "Mom's been crashing on my couch." "That must be fun," I said coolly. "Maybe this time she'll bring a belt." He flinched. "You've really changed," he said quietly. "No," I stepped closer. "You just underestimated how quiet I can be while planning my comeback." He had no answer. Back in Seattle, the future felt brighter. I launched a women's initiative for survivors of family betrayal. I called it the second room, for every daughter told she'd never deserve the first. At the grand opening, I gave one final speech. I was slapped at my own engagement party, but that wasn't the day I broke, it was the day I began to rebuild. We are not what they did to us. We are what we build from it. The audience rose. Applause, tears, hope. As for my parents, I never saw them again, but sometimes, I imagine them driving past the place where their house once stood. Now, a shelter for single mothers rises there, funded by the very inheritance they once tried to steal from me. That is my legacy, not revenge, rebirth.